what's the biggest gift I received? And I would say, aside from my kids and my wife having U.S. citizenship, it's the gift has been the people I've met, Adam. It's been unbelievable. I feel really blessed with the incredible people I've met as a result of this move. And the premise I've taken all along is that, I'm here to listen and learn and find out what do you do? Who's your ideal client? Who do you like to work with? And also, who do you want to be introduced to?
Welcome back to the Success in South Florida podcast. I'm your host, Adam Rossen, and on today's episode, we have Wayne Baxter from One Capital Management. Wayne, I'm so excited to meet you and get to talk to you. Welcome to the show.
I really appreciate you making time to have me on your program. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, me too. Me too. So I don't like to give big introductions. I like to just kind of dive right in and let you tell your story. Okay.
Let's do it.
And let you really introduce yourself, because I feel like nobody can ever introduce themselves or can ever be introduced as well as they can introduce yourself. So Wayne, I'll give you the floor. Who are you? What do you do? And we'll get right into it.
Well, it sounds like a great idea. So again, I'm Wayne Baxter. I am a senior executive manager with One Capital Management. We are a fee-only fiduciary portfolio manager. And what we do is we provide investment wealth management services on a fee-only fiduciary basis. So what I do is I help my clients grow, protect, and eventually, distribute their wealth. So again, we do that by providing investment wealth management services. And what's really unique about our firm is that we have the capability through our licensing to trade on our clients' portfolios in both the United States and Canada. I'm actually a dual citizen. I'm originally from Canada and moved to the United States 12 years ago. I'm now a dual citizen, Canadian and U.S. citizen. And the firm One Capital Management's founder is actually the same. He's a dual citizen. His name is Don McDonald. He's originally from Winnipeg, Manitoba. And he moved down to the U.S. back in 1999 and eventually started up One Capital Management. And I met Don actually while I was on vacation in Malibu one summer back in 2011. And that meeting and getting together, socializing, we ended up connecting and keeping in touch. And he ultimately offered me the opportunity to become a cross-border wealth management advisor for One Capital Management. And discussing that with my wife, I remember what she said. A couple things come to mind. She said, well, first of all, if we don't do this, we're going to spend the rest of your life wondering, what if? And
Absolutely.
Secondly, she said, well, and get this one, you'll like this. She said, and if you fall flat on your face, I'm sure somebody back in Canada will hire you. So with that protocol, how could I turn down the opportunity?
Well, Wayne, so that brings up a great lesson in taking risk, because at the end of the day, I'm sure it seemed scary to you, but what, your wife brings up an amazing point. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You can always go get another job in Canada, right?
Right.
So why not? Let's go for it. Now, was that, after talking to your wife about it, was that an easy decision, or was there still something, holding you back? Was fear creeping in, or?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that was the initial discussion. At the time, we had a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, and well ensconced we lived in a town just north of Toronto, Ontario. We lived in Bradford, Ontario, which is like an exurb of Toronto. And kids were well involved in the, local community events. And my daughter specifically, she did a lot of, acting plays and all that kind of stuff. And my son, he played some minor league hockey, in hockey and had other things going on. So the relocation of them was obviously something we had to take into consideration. We had to guess what? I had to do a financial plan to make sure this made sense.
Yep.
So when I looked at the reasoning, the logic behind it, above and beyond the fact I was sick and tired of shoveling snow, My vision for doing this, my reason for doing is I wanted to give my kids the opportunity to be dual citizens. I felt that it would be a benefit to them that they could have the option to live anywhere in either Canada or the U.S. So to me, that was sort of the eye on the prize. But
Okay.
then, we had to sell my business in Canada. I had a very large financial planning practice in Toronto. We had almost 1,000 clients, all said and done. It's a very large practice. So to find a buyer for a practice of that size was not easy, but with the help of the folks at my former firm, we were able to find multiple buyers that basically came together and bought my practice. So that was one thing. And then obviously the immigration side of it, which I will tell you right now was done to some extent on a leap of faith. I would not, for an existing client or a new prospective client coming my way right now, I would not necessarily recommend them take the approach that I did. The
Right. Which
line,
was all right. Let's do
ignorance,
it and figure it out.
the line I will use is ignorance is bliss and the mother of adventure,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
through the grace of God, I guess we'll say it all worked out. But I'm sure we can get into some of the things people want to think about when they're making relocating from one country to the other. But yeah, there was a lot of blind faith involved in my relocation, and it's actually been very helpful for me in advising my clients because a lot of the work that we do, Adam, is helping clients relocate, you know, from Canada to Florida, for example. I've helped clients do
Right.
that, right? Or other parts of the US, and also the other way around, people relocating from the United States to Canada.
Right.
And
And
now
so
that
these are
there's an
great things.
election, undoubtedly we're going to be getting more calls from people
Right.
wondering if they should.
Well, I remember in 2016, everybody said they were going to move to Canada, and I don't know
Right.
if anybody moved. So,
No, it's
but
like that, that lasted for what?
mhm.
I mean, probably from the fall into the spring, and then everybody forgot.
Right, right. But Wayne, there's one thing that I have to ask you before we go any further. Okay. And I
Sure.
know, where you are is on the East Coast or Toronto and Ontario, right? That's the East
That's where
Coast
I
of
lived. I live in Los Angeles.
right. Right, but where you're from. So where you're from is the east coast of Canada, and I know
Right.
Edmonton is closer to the west. Okay, so were you rooting for my
Very good on
Florida
the geography
Panthers?
so far. Pardon me?
Right, were you rooting for my Florida Panthers, or were you rooting for the Oilers in the
Oh,
Stanley
good.
Cup
Now we're
Finals?
talking. Now we're
Right.
talking something that this could go off in a completely different direction. Well, I'm a huge hockey fan. Like I would almost call it a chronic illness. And my team of choice is the Toronto Maple Leafs, which of course
Okay.
are
Oh, we
the
we've had some good rivalries with you guys.
no kidding. So when it came to the Stanley Cup Finals, here's the thing. I'm sure the folks at the IRS are going to be happy to hear this. I had wagers on both the Panthers and the Cups, and the Panthers and the Oilers to win the Cup. So, and it was the winning amount, the odds were the same. So I was going, whoever won, I have a ticket to cash in.
Nice. Okay.
So, from a selfish monetary perspective, I was neutral. Um, Connor McDavid is an incredible hockey player, and but I'm not an Oilers fan per se or a Panthers fan. So I was kind of Switzerland.
Okay. Well,
It would have
you
been
just wanted 7 games of good hockey.
of
Which,
entertainment, exactly right,
right.
and we
Which
got that. And I mean, there are players on both the Panthers and the Oilers that I like. Right? So I don't have any, Matthew Kachuk who doesn't like him, right? For example,
right.
and
Well, some
I can
players on
go
the
on and on.
Bruins don't like
Jordan
him, but
Ladd and all these players. So I mean, I didn't really
right.
have contempt, if you will, for either team.
Okay.
So I will say I played. I guess I was kind of Switzerland. for
Well,
the Stanley Cup
Well,
Finals
I
this
can tell
year.
you, as a lifelong South Florida, born and raised, I was so happy that the Panthers won in our
I
30th
yeah,
season. It
no,
was amazing. And now, all
yeah,
of a sudden, the last 2, 3 years, everybody's a Panthers fan, which makes the game
that's
so
great
exciting and
though.
so much fun. But right, we all came out of the woodwork. Who knew we had so many real long-term Panthers fans here? But we do now,
Well,
at least
I
as long
I
as we're
hope
good.
they can keep the momentum. That's what I hope, quite
Yes,
frankly, and I
yes,
hope that
me
they
too.
will continue to fill that hockey arena during the regular season, and they can keep the momentum going. They have had really, when you think about it, a good 2 or 3 year run here, and whenever this happens, you're going to have to give up some assets because the salary cap, and my Maple Leafs actually picked up one of your defenseman, Oliver Ekman Larsson's now going to be a Maple Leaf this coming season. So
Okay, yeah, he had a good year for us. He was good.
he was
So,
that was a big
right.
acquisition.
And we can always
Anyway, I
talk
could
to the
talk
money
about
guy
hockey
about
all day long.
managing, right? And we could talk to the money guy about managing the salary cap in hockey and how that stuff works.
Exactly. Oh
But
gosh.
instead of that, yeah, we definitely got to talk about you. So Wayne, so it seems, you have this really interesting niche here between, cross-border US and Canada, right? And
Right.
taking that again, that leap of faith, it seems like you're a numbers guy. And, let me ask you, when we're talking about, emotion versus logic, right? And the decision making process, what really
Right.
guides your decision making process?
Well, I'm a believer. There's I guess you call it an acronym, EDI, and that stands for emotions destroys intellect. So
Ah,
if I'm making all of my decisions solely based on emotions, I'm probably going to not be too happy with the outcome. So I will tell you, when it came to this decision of relocating my family, uprooting them from their life, relatively comfortable life, and the exurbs of Toronto, and moving them to Malibu. I mean, to think that it was purely an emotional decision would be clearly incorrect. There was a lot of analysis done in terms of, can we make this work? And when I did the forecasting, and I basically did it from the standpoint of, remaining intact, remaining doing what we're doing, or making the relocation. And basically, the analysis told me that I had a 5 year window to make it work.
okay.
So that was the risk for me. And quite frankly, we made it work. And I needed the full 5 years, quite frankly, as well.
Now, did you come up
And
with a specific business plan for this? I know you said you did like the
yes,
financial forecast,
100%. Oh, yeah.
but oh,
Yeah, those who
okay,
fail to plan to fail. I can tell you that much. So yes, absolutely, I did. Now the problem with business plans is they are subject to change at any time, and so was mine. So the
right,
original plan that I had was somewhat uprooted, probably within a month after I got my visa in place. So we came down on my wife's education visa because we had a very short window of relocation. Basically, we had months, so we ended up coming down. And my wife, to her benefit, she ended up was the person who got us into the country, into the U.S. legally because we didn't want to go underground. And so she actually took some courses at Santa Monica College, and that got us in on her education visa. And
oh,
that got
very
us our
nice.
kids. Our kids allowed us to enroll our kids into school in Malibu, and then from there, I worked on getting my what's called an E2 investor visa in place, and that took a bit of time.
Yes,
So
I'm
yeah, I had
slightly
definitely had
familiar with those, and I know that it's a great program to have, but it can be difficult.
the problem with the E2 visa though, Adam, is it doesn't lead directly to a green card. So it's great to get in. A lot of immigration attorneys that I know, and I think some of the ones I do, will encourage people who are entrepreneurially inclined to take that route. But I would say to anyone, and I've said this to people who I've advised, is that, what is the move? What's the path forward from there? If you're anticipating
Right.
becoming and remaining a permanent resident of the United States, the question is, how do you get from the E2 visa to a green card?
And
Ultimately citizenship. And for me, that was something important because my motivation for relocating here was not just to come in and check things out and move back to Canada. My move was intended to be permanent.
right. And look, from my perspective too, as a criminal defense lawyer, the owner of one of South Florida's largest criminal defense firms, we deal with immigrant cases all the time. And what most people don't realize, you probably do, but most people don't realize that permanent residents get deported from this country every single day. So people think that just because they get their green card that they're good. No, right? Green card holders get deported every day from this country. So it's a multi-step process, and you have to go all the way through in order to be fully protected if, heaven forbid, there's ever some type
And
of criminal situation going
you're
on,
darn
which is what
right,
we
and
see.
you're nailed it. And from my standpoint, my motivation was citizenship right from the start. So again, that leap of faith that I took on coming down here, and again, the plan was to implement the E2 visa as a starting point. But the question was, how do we get from the E2? Because the challenge with the E2 is that I could work with the company I had joined, and my wife was able to work, but my children were not. And in fact, if they were not, if we didn't get permanent residency by the time they were 21 years old, unless they, ended up going to university down here or post-secondary education, they'd have to go back to Canada.
And so was
So
part
we
of
were
your plan.
on the clock. We were on the clock to get permanent residency,
Mhm.
to get a green card in place. And thankfully, I met an immigration attorney after I moved down here. I was referred to an immigration attorney through one of my friends, and he was able to figure out what the initial attorney that helped us get into the country couldn't figure out, was is how to get how for me to apply for a green card. And thankfully, that was successful, and we actually had our green cards delivered to us, or we picked them up on Halloween, October 31st, 2017. We became green card, officially
Fantastic.
green card holders.
And
Was
then you guys are all
a
citizens,
very
right?
happy day in the family, the Baxter family, I can tell you.
Yes, and now you guys are all citizens, right? I think you said you have dual
Yes.
citizenship, so that's great. And so this 5-year window, was it, I mean, in this business plan, was it, I think it was more than a business plan. It was kind of a personal or a family business plan as well with the
It
moving
was,
parts
it
with
was multiple. We
immigration.
had to do a business plan for the purposes of our application. First things first. But then for myself, I've been creating business plans for myself going back about, well, now, but 24, 25 years. And so that's a sort of part and parcel of what I do. And to this day, that's part of how I run my business, is to have a business plan. Again, going back to this, what I mentioned to you earlier, Adam, about those who fail to plan to fail. So I've always been a proponent of having a vision of how the future is going to unfold, understanding full well that we're subject to change. So yes, there was a business plan in place, and at the time, the vision was mainly, quite frankly, the collaboration with my former colleagues in Canada. That didn't quite unfold the way I thought it was going to, and I had to change course. And um, I ended up getting quite heavily involved uh, in Southern California, where I reside, and connecting with the professional community there, and through an organization that you may have heard of called Provisors. It's been an incredible
Yes.
organization for myself and many other members, of course. And what it really is it's a professional networking group. It's basically uh, intended for those with at least 10 years worth of experience in their giving field. It's primarily white collar related. So, a lot of attorneys, a lot of CPAs, a lot of other business consultants, financial services, banking, uh, real estate, of course. And basically, what we're there for is to support each other, right? So if I have a client, for example, that needs an estate planning attorney, Provisors has already gone ahead and vetted those people out. And I've recently had actually needed an estate planning attorney for a client of mine who is relocating from Washington State, Seattle area, to Utah. And I was able to go through my professional network of Provisors, and I found them an excellent fit. And again, that's just an example, but it goes on and on. We're constantly assisting each other. And by joining that professional network and getting myself well ensconced in that network, I was able to not only do you obviously can be a resource to others, but you also have the opportunity to be introduced to potential clients.
Right. And Wayne, you're absolutely right. So I've been fortunate to be a Provisor's member for the last 6 months.
There
That's
you
how
go.
I'm in Andre Williams's group. We're in Fort Lauderdale 3.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, and obviously
And I'm a
that'll be a
member
great
of Warner
transition.
Center in Woodland Hills, California.
Ah, okay. And it's a great transition to talk a little bit about, some of the work you're doing with the Miami Gardens Chamber and Andre, and all those things. And Provisors has been I think it's been an incredible group. But before we get into that, I want everybody listening to know it's about the power of community and relationships.
Mhm.
Because when you have a group like that, like
Essential.
you said, 10 years experience, everybody's vetted. This is not a different, there's other networking groups where really anyone can join. They'll take anyone's money, and it's so high pressure sales, high pressure networking, where I feel this is more exactly like you said, more professional, more white collar, more organic about relationship building. Yes,
Yeah.
referrals and networking is a very big part of it, but it has to be organic and not cheesy. And
Yeah.
that's
It's
why I've
all
thoroughly
based on the
enjoyed it.
premise. Yeah. It's all based on the premise of know, like, trust, refer. So you get to establish relationships with people and you find out ultimately who you naturally connect with. Because let's face it, I think you would agree, Adam, that you wouldn't think twice before recommending a good friend to somebody who needed their help. I mean, you would do it
Oh,
organically,
oh,
unconditionally.
absolutely. Right.
And
No, you're absolutely right, Wayne. And as we've grown our firm, we look at ourselves as relationship builders, as connectors,
right,
through criminal
same here.
defense. Most people don't think of that through criminal defense, but we do. I think we make the South Florida community a much better and safer place by the work that we do with our clients to help them, but also making sure that we connect our clients beyond just criminal defense, and not just our clients, but our network. We have a very vast network of attorneys, and just not even in addition to attorneys, we probably have 30 therapists that we know, that we trust, that, when our clients are in need, we can say, hey, listen, here's a therapist that has this skill set, this personality. I think you two would really get along, and this is the right fit for you. So it's about being that trusted advisor to our clients and just paying it forward and being in a very giving and helpful profession.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here. I will tell you right now, Adam. And the premise I've taken all along is that, I'm here to listen and learn and find out what do you do? Who's your ideal client? Who do you like to work with? And also, who do you want to be introduced to? Like, who would you like? Who's your best connector or connectors, if you will? And my goal is to be listening, and finding out opportunities to make those introductions. And all the referral part of it, I will tell you right, quite frankly, takes care of itself.
I
Um,
agree.
so focusing on, how am I going to get that next referral to me is it's kind of having a case of ingrown eyeballs, if you will. I I tend to try to look out and see how I can be a resource, and Provisors has been tremendous. I can't, I it's been so important to me. My immigration attorney was a Provisors member. And if it wasn't for Provisors, I probably would not have met him. And who knows what could have happened with my immigration status if I hadn't have met
Right.
that attorney, because he was pretty creative about the program that he ended up utilizing to get us our green card. So Provisors means a lot to me, not only from that standpoint, but from the personal relationships I've made, and obviously the professional collaboration, which is so important for my clients.
Well, and you can look, if you never joined Provisors, who knows if you'd still be in the country right now? And I can guarantee
I
you, you wouldn't be
100%
on
I
this
agree with you.
podcast.
You're
Right.
I mean, I don't. The odds are a lot lower. I'll tell you right now. I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't have happened, but I would much prefer the path that we've taken than what the alternative could have been.
The Success in South Florida podcast is brought to you by the team at Rossen Law Firm. If you need DUI or criminal defense representation, call the Rossen Law Firm at 754-206-6200 or check the description of today's episode for more contact information. The Rossen Law Firm, helping good people when bad things happen so they can achieve their best futures.
Right. Right. So, Wayne, let's dive into exactly what you do and how you've been able to help with especially in South
Absolutely.
Florida, with Canadians who are so many Canadians are moving here. We have the New Yorkers, we have a bunch of people, but we've
And it's
always
all,
had this connection with Canada, always. So
yeah.
walk us through, how that kind of organically happened and exactly
Well,
what
first
you
of
do.
all, I think most financial advisors will tell you right now, people don't wake up in the morning thinking that they want to go hire a new financial advisor. There's usually some, I will call it, cathartic event that's occurred in their lives that forced them to kind of take stock of their situation. And the usual ones are they get married or there's a divorce. They've been hired or they've been fired. There's a
Right.
birth or someone's passed away or there's a relocation. So we'll stick on the relocation here for a minute. So, and I can talk about, other ones, but we'll just deal with relocation. So, a common scenario for me is a lot of my clients, if you took a look inventory, a lot of them are what you would call STEM-based professionals. So they're from the science, technology, engineering, or math fields. Canadian citizens, Canadian residents, and they've been recruited, or their employer is moving them to the US, someplace in the US. So these people typically, by the time I meet with them, they're already well established. They're married, house, kids, 2 cars in the garage. They've already accumulated wealth in their Canadian investment accounts. And now their employer, I'll give you the example of a client to help relocate from Toronto to Austin, Texas, as an example. And I can talk about the clients that have helped relocate from Canada to Florida as well, but we'll use the Austin, Texas one just for now. So this couple married, 4 children, and the employer is moving wants the family to move to Austin. So we basically worked with the client to help them sell their house in Canada, found the attorney required to help that sale go through, did a full financial plan for them so that we could figure out the logistics financially for them, arranged to transfer their money from Canada to the US so they could purchase a home in Austin. And lucky for them, the sale price of the money they got for their home in Canada was exactly what they needed to purchase the home in Texas. So it was literally almost to the penny, not quite, but the amount of what they got for the house in Canada, they lucked out. So they got the house purchased. But we did a full financial plan for them. We were able to get them property and casualty insurance. For example, they were unaware of umbrella insurance, for example, or the importance of liability coverage in the United States. We were able to set up investment accounts for them here and also take over the management of their Canadian investments and have them all coordinated. We worked with an estate planning attorney so they could get a trust set up because they're residents of Texas. And they have a special needs child, so we also had to arrange for a special needs trust, and we also had to get them a successor trustee to act for them as well. So there's a lot of movement around here with that client, a lot of work that we had to do with them over quite a period of time. So that's an example.
And so I'll tell you something, Wayne. So as like the highly skilled, technician in criminal law, right? Me and my team, we love the hard ones. We love the tough fact patterns. When something comes in and we're like, ooh, this is going to be good. This is going to be fun.
Yes.
It's not run of the mill.
That's
so when you had this, right. And so did you and your team run as the point people for this, as far as coordinating all these attorneys? And I mean, there's so many factors.
Conversion, the attorney. So they had to transfer their money from the United States, from Canada to the United States. And we were able to work with a company who actually did the currency, the foreign exchange for them. So it's far more costly as a rule of thumb to go through your bank. So in other words, moving your money from a bank account in Canada to a bank account in the U.S. directly can be a fairly costly experience. So we work with private firms who can do it for, I wouldn't say pennies on the dollar, but close to that, comparatively speaking. So yeah, the quarterback in terms of for them to get the attorney to help them sell their house in Canada. We initially working with a mortgage person here in the United States because we thought we may need a mortgage. Actually, that person became hopeful anyway as a part of the house purchasing process. Working with the attorney, again, finding them a fiduciary to act to take part with their estate plan, getting them the property and casualty expert. Not surprising, some of these people are in Provisors, not all of them, but some of them. So yeah, absolutely, we played the quarterback, and that's pretty common for most people when they're relocating because they don't have those relationships already established in the U.S. So part of the role that we play is basically having those relationships. So when someone comes to us, we have those people, we have boots on the ground already to
Right.
help them with
And
whatever
and
they need.
anybody listening to this, I think it's really important to know, and you might, hopefully you agree with me, that there's a lot of people that are financial planners, but in reality, they're financial product salespeople. And that's really it. They're just
Mm-hmm.
selling financial products, and there is no planning, there is no advice, there is no strategy. So the fact that you and your team, you guys were running, point guard or quarterback or, handling the puck in center ice, right? Doing the face-offs and coordinating everything. Right, you're running the power play. Okay. That just shows that we're, you and your team much higher level than probably
I think
80,
it's
90% of the people
I'm
out
glad you
there.
brought that up, Adam. Really astute of you to bring that up. Now, and a key part of the role that we play and the way we're compensated, which falls into what you're saying, is so we're what is called a fee only fiduciary. So when it comes to the investment side of this whole and the planning side, we are not commission driven in terms of we set up an investment portfolio, whether it's the United States or Canada. We're not trading our client's account to make commissions. So we build the client an advisory fee. It's an annual advisory fee paid quarterly in advance. And for that, we do all the work that we need to do for the client. So we're not pre-calculating any like how are we going to get paid or how we're going to earn money. Full
It means you
disclosure,
always got to work for it.
full disclosure here, just not to leave any stone unturned. I do have a life insurance license, so and life insurance is only sold mainly through a commission process. So that said, I can tell you and would say so, hand on Bible, if you will. That, we only sell insurance on a needs as needed, not from the perspective of any kind of quotas or anything like that. So, if a family needs long-term care insurance or long-term disability insurance or term or permanent life insurance, we will go and source it out as to what's in the best interest of the client. And again, that's all based on planning as a part of the overall plan. But you're right. The industry is still fairly transaction based. And so the benefit that we provide, if I can say so, is that our our basis for establishing relationships is based on, I would say, three criteria, for me anyway. One, are your goals achievable? Is what you want to achieve doable? Two, are we compatible? Because again, what we're doing is we're doing with an advisory based relationship. And three, will you take our advice? Right? And if the answer is yes, yes, and yes, then I think we have a good place to start.
Right. Okay. That's great. Yeah. So okay, let's get into Miami Gardens and let's get into some of the work that you're doing, through that you met with
Well, I'm
Andre
really excited
Williams,
about
the
this. We got
chamber.
a few things coming up here that I'm actually very excited. We have a workshop coming up later in September. I guess I can almost say this month. Uh, I guess it'll be the week of the. I think it's the week of the. I think it's the 26th of September. We're hosting a workshop, 25th or 26th. I apologize, I'm gapping on that right now. But we're doing a roundtable discussion that I'm going to be participating in.
I got the
And
emails
again,
for that. I'm excited.
and then that's going to be done virtually. But then in November, I believe it's the week of the 13th of November, we're doing an in-person event as well. Again, the intention here is to connect the folks in Miami Gardens with subject matter experts that can help them. And again, there will be a focus, no question, on people relocating to Florida, not only from Canada, but also from, say, the beautiful state of New York or some other part up the coast, up New England states area that want to relocate. So we're going to have some subject matter expert and commentary on things that you should be aware of when you're relocating. I can tell you right now, it's a bit of a process, and there can be a lot of either omissions or commissions that could be very costly. So we're going to try to educate and inform our audience on what they are.
That's great. And, we have so many people still coming to South Florida every day, especially from the Northeast, and Canada.
Not surprising. It's not
Right.
surprising.
Well, and the funny thing to me, Wayne, is that, like I was born here. I was the first person on either side of my family born in Florida.
Oh, really?
And so I'm a native Floridian, but yet I'm a product of my parents on both sides moving from New York in the, very late 70s, right around 79. I mean, I think it was actually 1980 when they moved. I was born in 81. So for everybody who's all the Floridians now who are up in arms with everybody moving, to escape and flee COVID, yes, the house it's very difficult to get a house, and the prices are through the roof, and same with commercial real estate, and right, all these New Yorkers are here, but we've been having that for years and years and years, and most of our native Floridians are even the product of that, especially the ones from New York, at some point in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So I always find that just interesting, and it'll never stop. Everybody will, plenty of people move here all the time for lots of different reasons, but it's a great place. And you're in Malibu, which is also a pretty good place, except, well, weather-wise.
I was in Malibu for just to clarify, I was in Malibu for the first 5 years, and then we moved up to Westlake Village, California, which is 12 miles inland from Malibu, and it's, I'm that's where One Capital Management's head office is. We live about 2 to 4, I guess about 2 miles away from the office, a four or
Oh,
five
that's
minute drive.
convenient.
But yeah, it's a beautiful area, Westlake Village, California. Uh, Canal Valley is where we're located. It's just a beautiful part of the world.
Right. But people are leaving California as well for a variety of reasons, to
Uh,
taxes and a lot of
More than
other
aware
things.
of
So,
that. More than aware of that,
right.
and more than I know, a few of them have relocated from California to Florida too. By the way,
Right.
FYI.
And Texas. Yeah, Florida and Texas. It's big. It's big. Although I will give you guys the weather. I think you guys have much better weather because it's a lot less
It's a
humidity.
drier
Um,
climate, Adam. That's the way I would
right.
best describe it. Um, Depending on your perspective, and again, I'm living in Canal Valley here, so I'm, my version of Shangri-La. The topography here is fairly remarkable. It's a unique combination of mountains and ocean. Uh, so you have a very dry climate, which can be a blessing and a curse, by the way. Depending on the time of year, you get into the fall and get into the Santa Ana winds, they can be a bit of a concern, but it's a beautiful part of the world, and we certainly love living here.
Great. Great. So, what else do you have going on with South with the chamber in Miami Gardens in South Florida? I know you have the workshop in
Well,
September. You got the in person in
it,
November.
good question. I think, well, what we're working on right now, quite frankly, is just providing information, and we're working with my team and Andre's team are collaborating, and we're literally, as we speak, working on providing more content information that will be shared via the Miami Gardens Chamber of Commerce related to those folks that are moving into the area. Again, think of the cross border, the expat Canadian that's relocating to the United States. The goal here with us is to provide them with information and resources. That's my objective. So literally, as we speak, we are going to be creating content related to that specifically. So
Okay.
providing content and also being available to be a resource, and where I may not be of assistance, at worst I'm going to be able to connect folks with the people they need to speak to on some other matter unrelated to what I do.
And so, Wayne, what advice do you have for people who are deciding whether or not to make a big life change, right? You made this major life change, and I want to talk more kind of, just not necessarily the exact nuts and bolts, but more maybe around the mindset aspect of it
Right.
and the
Yeah, I understand what you're getting
preparation.
at. Sure. Well, I think the most important thing is the idea of look before you leap, and to do the planning and hire experts to help with this. If you're relocating from, I'll say right now, before I realize that people will move from, the northeast of the U.S. to Florida. But say if you're moving from Canada, for example, the first person you really need to talk to, the first person, number one, is an immigration attorney. You got to figure out how am I going to move here, right? So you want to talk to experts. Beyond that, the next person you probably should be talking to, and there's an argument about the order of operations here, but you should be talking to a tax advisor and a financial advisor. You can almost make the argument come together. But you want to have the mindset of don't try to be a do-it-yourselfer. Entrepreneurs are, I'd say chronically or notoriously do-it-yourselfers. Well, this would be one area where I would highly recommend that you take advantage of the expertise that's out there and have them provide you with some clarity and guidance in advance of making these decisions. And then we can get into the more minutia, like you said, like you can get into the weeds here pretty deep. But the first mindset is, get advice. And also the questions you should be asking yourself, is this going to be a permanent move or a temporary move? Like, what is the vision for the future here? You should be thinking along those lines in advance, because that may affect your decision. Because, for example, I'll give you one sort of technical thing. Real estate. So if you own a property in Canada, your principal residence, that residence, if you're purely a Canadian citizen, no ties to the U.S., if it's your principal residence, that property is not subject to income tax, capital gains tax. That house, you could have purchased it for $200,000 and sell it for $2 million, and you pay zero capital gains tax on that transaction, right?
Good deal.
If you become a U.S. resident before deciding what to do with that property, the meter starts ticking on that property, because once you become a U.S. person, that becomes a taxable asset. So you want to think about what you're going to do in advance, and to think about whether or not do you want to maintain that property after you become a U.S. resident. Just one example, and there's many more, but that's just one thing to think about. So the mindset is, I can't do this on my own. I need to bring in other experts, and I need to get advice, and I need to think about what the vision is. What am I planning to do here? Is this we'll give it a try versus we're moving? Like for myself, when I decided I was going to do this, I knew it was going to be permanent. I wasn't doing this as a...
You threw all the chips in and said, I'm all in. This is poker.
Yeah, well, yes.
Right.
I had a lot of faith that it would work. But yes, I knew what I was doing, and I knew that it was intended to be, how was it going to turn out? You can't write the script, right? In fact, the script I would have written, that's been 12 years now. The script I wrote, would have written 12 years ago, it turned out differently. And I would say better than I could have imagined. But yeah,
usually does.
You want to come into this thing with eyes wide. And probably, hindsight being rhetorically perfect, there are things that I did that I would not recommend my clients.
Right. But what I can tell you, Wayne, is it all worked out, right? And it all worked out, and you said it worked out better. Exactly. And that, for listeners to the show, you've listened to a lot of episodes. You've heard so many amazing, successful people speak and give their stories and their advice. And I think, so, a lot of things that you said are just absolutely correct and very consistent with what we hear about creating a vision, right? Is this a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year? Is it beyond, right? Understanding what you need to do, coming up with that business plan and family plan, and figuring out how all the pieces go, and making sure that there wasn't, or if there was a fear component, you guys went anyway, and you made smart strategic decisions, which it's easy to take a leap of faith when it's a smart strategic decision. And it's very difficult to have a real failure. I really believe most people, you either win or you learn. There really is no failure, because what is failure? You weren't going to be homeless. You weren't going to be on the streets.
I did a lot of learning. I did a lot of learning along the way. I'll tell you that right now. Again, hindsight's always rhetorically perfect, but I think about it now and look back at what we've done here, and I think I'll share this one with you. The biggest gift that I've been given, if I left this planet yesterday, and hopefully go in the right direction here, and I'm asking, what was the biggest gift that I received from the relocating from Toronto, Canada to Southern California? what's the biggest gift I received? And I would say, aside from my kids and my wife having U.S. citizenship, it's the gift has been the people I've met, Adam. It's been unbelievable. I feel really blessed with the incredible people I've met as a result of this move, and that's the gift that keeps giving. The relationships and the friendships that I truly and genuinely cherish as a result of making this move. That's been the biggest gift.
Yeah. And look, I agree with you 100%. The people are so key. We always say, look, why do we build and are continuing to build the Rossen Law Firm? And what we do is because we want to help people. We want to help our community, and we're in the people business. Being a criminal defense firm, and it's internal and external. We're right. The more we grow, the more we can support the local economy by having a bigger team. And we're in the people business with our team. We're in the people business with our clients and helping. And just yesterday, we had a client come by. I mean, terrible situation that they're in, and the case isn't even over yet, but the bonds that we have with the client, and they came in and brought us, some cookies and cakes, and they brought, or just heartfelt handwritten letters, thank you letters, just knowing that our team and our family is then helping their family. It really is just so touching. And that's what we're in when we're in the people business. So Wayne, thank you so much for being here, right? It was incredible
pleasure
to learn about you. And everything.
And I look forward to meeting you in person when I'm in Florida.
Yes.
We'll
I know. I need that date in November. I want to come by, and any other time you're down, we'll definitely hang out. I got news
for you. I'm going to be visiting South Florida the week of the 9th of September.
So okay, well, that's coming up real soon. We probably this will probably air after that, but we'll connect again offline, and we'll do a meetup.
Yeah, 100%. I guess I'm available, so look forward to it.
Okay, fantastic. Wayne, any other parting thoughts, one last piece of advice maybe that you want to give, to our listeners?
I just want to chime in on a comment that you made about how you were helping your client and about the bond that you have with your clients. And the thing that came to my mind when you were sharing that was, I cannot see, and maybe I'm not visionary enough, I cannot see how AI is going to be able to replace that human contact. I mean, it can do a lot of, so the good news is for you and I, where we're on the front lines of helping people and being, a trusted advisor, and I think we're fortunate in that space. We can use AI as a resource, but I can't imagine the human element being replaced by it.
Right. It can't, and it won't. But we're big proponents of AI for certain things, and others are just are just irreplaceable.
I'm anti-AI, and besides, we've been rewarded by investing in it, I will say. Yeah. But again, I think what we do here is helping our clients grow, protect, and ultimately distribute their wealth has a lot to do with the connection we have with those families.
Absolutely. So Wayne, again, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you. I can't wait for us to meet up and get to meet offline. And so that's a wrap for anybody listening to this. One last thing is, how can anybody listening to this who wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you? How can they reach out?
Probably, I'm gonna provide a phone number, if you don't mind, and an email address. Would that be all right? Okay, so
whatever you want, Wayne.
I have a direct line, and I actually pick up the phone. My number is 805-719-4211. That is my direct line. So if you call that number, at worst, you'll get my voicemail. And I always return my calls as promptly as possible. I don't defer on that. Or you can email me at wbaxter, that's WBAXTER, at onecapital.com. So either phone or email, would love to hear. And also, if we don't mind me mentioning one last thing, we do have a webcast series called The 3 Questions with Wayne Baxter. It's currently on YouTube. We're going to be posting them as podcasts here in the not too distant future. But if you go to YouTube and just type in 3 Questions webcast series on YouTube, you will find, I think we have 73 episodes on YouTube that you can on a very wide range of topics. A lot of it's cross-border, but not all of it. A lot of real estate, a lot of estate planning attorney, a lot of it catering to business owners as well. So highly encourage your audience to check out the 3 Questions webcast series that we're working on, and we'll be continue to do recording going into the fall.
Great. And we'll link up all those links in the show notes so everybody can see that.
100%.
Fantastic. So Wayne, again, thank you so much. It was great to interview you and get to know you better. All right. Take care.
Thank you.
At the Miami Gardens Chamber of Commerce, we're more than just a network. We're a global community. Our focus is on business to consumer connections, helping you reach your audience where it matters most. Whether you're a business owner, a professional, or someone looking to bring value to both the community and the world, the Miami Gardens Chamber is here for you. We're committed to generating valuable resources for our local community and beyond, supporting your growth every step of the way. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, and join our community by subscribing to our business newsletter at Miami Gardens Chamber. Let's build something great together.